He woke up with strange marks, and no one else remembered yesterday. The cold floor sent a chill through John Keller's back as he opened his eyes. He wasn't in a bed. He wasn't in his room. In fact, he didn't even remember where his room was. His hands trembled as he sat up. Around him, strange glowing trees shimmered beyond the broken walls of a stone hut. The sky above was blue, too perfect, like it had been painted. And then, the pain came. His left arm burned. He pulled back the sleeve of his worn shirt and froze. Red, curved marks were burned into his skin. Not random, symbols. 5 of them. They looked almost alien. He stood slowly, heart pounding. The place looked like a village made of old stone, twisted metal, and scraps of alien tech. Strange people passed him without a glance. Humans, but different. Quiet, expressionless. Some wore gray robes, others carried baskets or tools. He reached, for one man passing by. "Hey," John said, "what is this place? Do you know me?" The man stopped. His eyes were dull like sleepwalkers. "Good morning, stranger," he said with a blank smile. "First day?" "What do you mean, first?" But the man had already turned away, walking as if nothing had happened. John's mind spun. He remembered. Something. Fire. Screaming. A tower collapsing. A girl with silver eyes. Her face was clear in his mind, more real than anything else. But this place, this day, everything felt wrong. He walked through the village, trying to make sense of it. People acted normal. They smiled, they traded goods, they worked. But none of them remembered him. None asked who he was. And everyone acted like it was just another normal day. In the village square, a woman handed out fruit. Her face looked familiar. "Do you know me?" John asked. She smiled warmly. "You're new here, welcome." "No, not new. I was here yesterday. I think something happened. Something bad." Her smile faded slightly. "I'm sorry, I don't remember yesterday." "What?" "No one does. Only today matters. Memory resets every morning." John's mouth went dry. "What are you talking about?" The woman blinked slowly. "You'll understand soon." And then, just like the others, she turned away. He stepped back, panic rising in his chest. He remembered too much. The fire, the screams, the tall building of stone and steel falling into dust. And her. He remembered her. Most of all, silver eyes, soft voice. She had said his name. John. He sat by the edge of the square, heart racing. Why did no one remember? And why could he? A shadow fell over him. He looked up and saw her. The girl from his memory. She stood there, her skin pale and smooth like marble, her long hair tied behind her head, and her silver eyes shining with something deep, something old. She looked at him like she knew him. "You," John whispered. "You were there." She didn't speak, didn't blink, just stared. Then she turned and walked away. He jumped to his feet. "Wait." She vanished around a corner. He ran after her past buildings and confused villagers. When he turned the corner, she was gone. Only a quiet alley remained, but on the wall, scratched into the stone, was a symbol, one of the same marks, burned into his arm. His blood turned cold. This wasn't a dream. Something had happened here. Something no one else could remember, but he could. And now, he had a reason to stay, to follow the marks, to find her, and to find out why the planet wanted him to forget. As the sun began to rise higher in the sky, John whispered to himself, "I will not forget." The girl with silver eyes watched him, and didn't reset like the others. John did not sleep that night. He sat near the broken hut where he had first woken, staring at the glowing symbol on the wall. The same mark burned into his arm. The village had gone quiet, but his mind was screaming with questions. Why did the others forget? Why didn't he? And most of all, who was the silver-eyed girl? He didn't even know her name, but when she looked at him, it was like she could see into him, past the day, past the fog, into the truth. The sun broke the horizon like a whisper, and then it happened again. People began stepping outside their homes, smiling, stretching. The woman with the fruit set up her stall once more. The man with the basket walked the same path as yesterday, but not one of them looked at him with any memory of the day before. "Good morning, stranger," said the same man who had passed him yesterday. Same words, same smile, like a recording, playing again. John's heart sank. Again. All of them. Their memories had been wiped clean. They were living the same day, over and over. But then, she appeared at the far edge of the square, standing in the same place she had the day before. The girl with silver eyes. This time she stepped closer. Slow, careful steps. Her face held no smile. Her hands were shaking. Just slightly. Not fear, something else. He stood up. "You remember, don't you?" Her eyes widened. Not surprise. Recognition. "You remember me," John whispered. "Quiet," she said softly, her voice barely above a breath. "They watch everything." "Who watches?" But she didn't answer. Instead, she held out a small metal disc thin, no bigger than a coin. She placed it in his hand, closed his fingers around it, then leaned closer. "Hide this. Come to the old tower before nightfall," she whispered. "Don't speak to anyone else. If they know you remember, they'll come for you." Before he could speak, she was gone, vanishing into the crowd like smoke. John stared at the disc. It was warm, pulsing gently like a heartbeat. The villagers passed by, smiling, laughing, unaware of anything strange. But now everything felt wrong, like puppets playing their parts, like masks worn by people who had forgotten how to feel. He slipped the disc into his boot and began walking through the village again, watching everything. There were no children, no old people. No one ever seemed to change. No new faces, no memories, no questions. It was like the world itself wanted him to forget. He waited until nightfall. The old tower stood near the edge of the glowing forest, tall, silent, half swallowed by vines and time. Broken windows stared down like dead eyes. John crept inside, one step at a time. The walls were lined with carvings, symbols just like the ones on his arm. Some were glowing faintly. Others looked burned into the stone with fire. The girl was waiting at the top of the stairwell, sitting on a ledge beside a broken machine. Her silver eyes met his, calm but tired. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. Or maybe years. "You came," she said. "Who are you?" "Sira." He repeated the name. It felt right. "I was born here," she said. "Before the resets, before everything changed. They say memory is a curse, but they only say that because they're afraid. Afraid of what? Truth." She pulled a cloth away from her neck. More marks, just like his. "You're not the first to remember," Sira said. "But you're the first to make it past the third day." "What happened to the others?" She didn't answer. Her silence was sharp. John reached into his boot and gave her the disc. She pressed it into a panel behind the wall. Light flickered. Old machines groaned. A hologram blinked to life. Fuzzy and cracked, a man's voice spoke through static. "This is Dr. Rosen. Day 112 of Project Rebirth. Memory resets are holding. Subject awareness at 0%. But one anomaly remains." The recording cut out. Sira turned to him. "You're the anomaly." "Why?" "Because you came from the stars." John stepped back. "What? You're not like the others. You weren't born here, you fell here. You were brought as a test, but something broke the system. Your memories survived, and now, you're waking the world." Sira stood, eyes glowing brighter now. "They will come for you tonight," she said. "You must decide. Hide and forget, or fight and remember." "I don't even know who I am," John whispered. "You will. Sierra said, but the truth has a price. Outside, the winds howled. Inside, John clenched his fists. For the first time, he chose to remember. He hid in the temple ruins and found a map written in blood. The forest was silent. Too silent. John Keller moved carefully between the glowing trees, ducking beneath twisted roots and stepping over soft moss that shimmered faintly under the moonlight. Behind him, the lights of the village faded, swallowed by the dark. They were searching for him now. He could feel it. He had stayed too long with Sierra, had asked too many questions. Someone must have seen, someone must have told, and now they were coming. He gripped the blade Sierra had given him. It wasn't metal, but something smoother, warmer, alien. It pulsed faintly with every beat of his heart. "This will protect you," she had said. But not forever. John moved faster, deeper into the jungle. Sierra's final words echoed in his mind. "Find the old temple, the one they buried. It holds what you need." As he climbed over a fallen tree, something rushed past his ear. A sharp whisper, not wind, a whispering voice. He turned. No one there. Then he heard it again. "Help me." His blood turned cold. The voice came from the trees, from the dark, soft, broken. He didn't stop, couldn't stop. Finally, he saw it. Half buried beneath vines and dust was a stone temple, ancient and crumbling, its doors broken and split. It looked like it had been attacked, then erased from memory. John stepped inside. It was cold, darker than outside. The walls were lined with carvings, hundreds, maybe thousands. Strange scenes of people bowing, others screaming. One symbol kept repeating, an eye with a crack running through it. At the center of the room stood a giant stone table. On it, blood, dried, dark, and still fresh in places. John stepped closer, and then he saw it. The blood was shaped, not spilled. Someone had used it to draw a map. He leaned in. The map looked like a top-down view of the planet. Mountains, forests, rivers. But one part was circled in thick red strokes. A place deep in the eastern mountains. Next to it, written in blood, "They will find you before you find the truth." His chest tightened. Who had drawn this? Why blood? He looked closer and saw tiny marks around the edges. Names. Names that had been crossed out violently. But one name wasn't crossed out. His. John Keller, his hand shook as he reached out and touched the stone. A sudden pulse of energy hit him. His eyes rolled back. A flash. He saw a room filled with machines. Humans in white coats. One of them shouting. "He's remembering too fast." "Sedate him," another voice, cold and sharp. "No, let it happen." The vision ended. John collapsed to the ground, gasping. His memories. They weren't dreams. They were real. This wasn't just an alien world. It was a lab, a project. He had been sent here, used, and he wasn't the only one. Behind him, stone scraped. He turned, blade ready. A figure stood in the doorway. Not Sierra. This one wore black armor, face hidden behind a metal mask. Its eyes glowed blue. "Subject 31, the voice said, machine-like but with a hint of something human. "You shouldn't be here." John backed away slowly. "Who are you?" "Memory is dangerous," the figure said. "It breaks the balance. You were never meant to wake." John held the blade tighter. "I'm already awake." The figure stepped forward. "Then you'll die remembering." It moved fast. Too fast. John barely dodged, blade clashing with metal arm. Sparks flew. The stone table shattered. Blood splashed across the floor. He swung again, missed. The figure struck his side, hard. John fell, coughing. But he didn't give up. He rolled, grabbed a shard of glowing stone from the broken table and stabbed upward. A scream. The figure stumbled back, blue sparks bleeding from the wound. John didn't wait. He ran. Out of the temple, through the trees. Branches slapped his face. Roots caught his feet. But he didn't stop. He ran until the trees opened. And Sira was there, waiting. Her eyes widened when she saw the blood. "They found you. There's a map," he gasped. "A lab, a memory lab." She nodded slowly. "You're closer to the truth now. They tried to kill me. They will try again." John looked at the sky. Stars twinkled, but they looked different now. He wasn't just trying to remember. He was running out of time. And someone out. They didn't just want him to forget. They wanted him erased. The sky flashed red, and she screamed his name before forgetting. John Keller didn't speak as he walked beside Sira through the tall grass. His side still ached from the blow. Blood had dried on his shirt, but his mind burned hotter than ever. They moved away from the forest and deeper into the wildlands. The trees thinned. The land opened wide. Strange towers jutted out of the ground, broken, tilted, like bones from an ancient beast. The night sky above them looked wrong. "Do you see that?" John asked, pointing upward. Sira looked up. Stars flickered, but a faint red haze was building on the horizon, like the sky itself was bleeding. "It's starting," she whispered. "What is?" "The purge." He stopped. "What purge?" She turned to him. Her silver eyes shimmered like glass. "Every few days, the system resets harder. It doesn't just erase memory. It burns it." "What does that mean?" "People start to break," she said. "Their minds, too full, too much. They forget their own names. Sometimes they collapse. Sometimes they vanish." John looked back at the red light rising in the sky. "How do you know this?" She hesitated, then said, "Because I almost vanished once." They reached a half-buried dome covered in moss and sand. She pulled open a rusted hatch and they slipped inside. The air was stale and dry. Thick dust covered the floor. Pieces of old tech lay scattered, screens, cables, tubes. "This was a memory shelter," Sira said. "Before the resets became constant, some people tried to hold on to the past. This place was one of their last hopes." John ran a hand across a table. Under the dust were names carved into the metal. One of them made him freeze. "Keller J21, that's my name." Sira nodded. "You were part of the control group. Chosen for resistance." He turned to her. "You knew?" "Not at first. But the more I remembered, the more I saw your face. Again and again." A low hum shook the ground. Sira's face turned pale. "We have to hide. Now." They dropped behind a broken desk as the red light from the sky pierced the clouds. It poured through cracks in the dome. The light made the walls tremble. Something outside was moving, giant shadows gliding across the land. Through a small hole in the wall, John saw them. Memory harvesters, tall, spindly machines, part flesh, part metal. They walked without sound, long limbs slicing the grass as they scanned the area with red beams. Where the light touched, the ground sizzled. One stopped. It turned toward the dome. John held his breath. The machine raised one arm, pointed at the hatch, and then stopped. A long tone rang out. The machine froze, then turned and walked away, vanishing into the haze. John exhaled. "What are those?" he whispered. "They erase memory. Permanently," Sira said. "When someone remembers too much, the system sends them." John stood slowly. "So we're not just running from a reset. We're running from being erased." She nodded. He stepped outside again and looked up. The red haze was spreading. "It's getting worse. Soon the entire planet will forget everything," Sira said. "And when that happens, no one will be left." As they moved back across the plain, thunder cracked through the sky, loud, sharp, like a scream. John turned and saw a pillar of red light strike the village. His heart dropped. "They're resetting it." "No," Sira said, "they're wiping it." Fire burst through the trees, shadows twisted, and in the center of it all, people fell to the ground clutching their heads. Then, John heard it. His name. John. He turned toward the sound. Through the flames, Sira ran toward him. "No," he said. "You're right here," but another Sira was running, her eyes wide, bleeding. She screamed again, "John, don't forget me," and then her body collapsed. Her eyes went blank. No memory, no recognition, nothing. John stood frozen, two Siras. One remembered, the other lost again. "What is this?" he asked. The first Sira touched his shoulder gently. "Echoes. The reset tries to split us. Sometimes it wins, but you held on." John felt tears rising. He didn't even know why. She was still here, but part of her had just died. In that moment, something in him changed. He wasn't just trying to survive now. He was going to break the system. For her. For everyone. A hidden lab beneath the crater. And the truth about the experiment, the ground was still smoking as John and Sira left the edge of the destroyed village behind. Ash floated through the air like gray snow. The trees were twisted, blackened. Nothing moved. No birds, no people, no sounds. Only silence and heat. They walked until they reached a jagged path leading up into the mountains. Ahead was a dark ridge of stone, and beyond that, the crater. John had seen it before. In the map, written, in blood. "It's all connected to that place," he said, breathless. "Whatever this world is, it started there." Sira nodded, her face tight. "We're close now, but the truth, it's not kind." They climbed for hours. As they neared the top, wind screamed through the cliffs, and the land dropped away into a wide, deep hole. The crater was massive, its edges sharp like broken glass. In the center sat a dome, cracked, rusted, hidden behind dust and time. "Is that it?" John asked. "Yes," Sira said. "The first lab, the beginning of the resets, the heart of the lie." They slid down carefully into the crater using old rails and broken ladders buried in the rock. When they reached the dome's edge, Sira placed her hand against a small panel. It blinked red. A slow hiss escaped as the metal door creaked open. Inside was dark, cold, full of shadows. The hallway ahead was lined with lights, most flickering. John's boots echoed on the floor. Old screens lined the walls, broken wires hung from the ceiling. But something was alive in here. They walked past shattered doors marked with human letters. Memory control unit. Subject containment. Core override. They reached a control room filled with black glass panels and chairs bolted to the floor. In the center stood a single terminal, still glowing. Sira stepped forward. This is where it all began. John wiped dust from the console. Lines of data scrolled across the screen. Project Rebirth status, critical subjects, offline control override. Locked, he tapped a few keys. Then he found a video file, log 042, Dr. Arthur Rosen. He opened it. A shaky recording played. A tired man in a white coat appeared on screen, eyes sunken, hands trembling. "This is Dr. Rosen. The system's working, too well. Daily memory wipes are stable. Subjects show zero retention. We're losing their humanity, but the board says that's progress." He looked down. Subject J21 showed resistance, remembering fragments, especially emotional ones. Attachment to subject S9 remains. We believe emotion protects memory. John's heart pounded. J21. That's me, the video continued. We tried purging him, twice. He fought it, kept remembering. We think his bond with S9 is interfering with the protocol. If it spreads, it could break the cycle. Dr. Rosen leaned closer. If you're watching this, the system's still running. It means we failed. You'll need to shut down the core. But be warned, memory has a cost. The screen went black. Silence. Sira stood very still. I was subject S9. They used us, John said, his voice hollow. We were part of their test. We were more than that, she whispered. We were real. Our feelings, our memories, they weren't programs. John looked around the lab. On the far wall, he saw something that made his blood run cold. Dozens of clear tanks, most empty, but some still held people, floating, unmoving, faces frozen in time, all marked with red lines down their skin. Failed experiments. What did they do to them? He asked. Those who couldn't forget. They erased completely, Sierra said. John walked slowly to one tank. Inside, a young girl, maybe 17, her face peaceful, but her eyes open, staring into nothing. A nameplate below read, Subject A14, full retention. Terminated. John clenched his fists. We need to end this, Sierra nodded. There's only one way. The core is below us, deep underground, guarded. By what? She hesitated. The last of the Watchers, part machine, part memory. It doesn't forget, and it hates those who do. John looked down the dark stairwell at the far end of the room. His path was clear. No more running. No more forgetting. I'm going down there, he said. Sierra touched his arm gently. Then I'm going with you. Together, they stepped into the dark. Behind them, the last lights of the lab flickered. Ahead of them, the heart of the system waited, and it remembered everything. She chose to remember, even if it destroyed. Her mind, the air grew heavier with each step downward. John and Sierra descended the winding staircase into the core of the crater lab. The stone walls became metal. The lights changed, from cold white to flickering red. The deeper they went, the more the air smelled like burned wires and old blood. No sounds, no machines, just silence. But John felt it. Something was awake down here. At the bottom, the stairs ended at a massive steel door, covered in handprints, burned, smeared, clawed. Some were human, others were not. Sierra stared at the door without blinking. This is where memories are eaten, she said. John stepped forward. And we ended here. But before he could touch the door, Sierra's body shook. She dropped to her knees. John rushed to her. Sierra? She was breathing hard. Sweat ran down her face. Her hands clutched her head. Too many. Too fast. She gasped. They're coming back. What's coming back? Everything. The resets. I've been fighting them for too long. My brain, it's burning. John held her tightly. Don't force it. Stop. Rest. She looked up at him with wide, frightened eyes. If I stop, I'll forget you. His heart twisted. She was breaking apart. Because she remembered. Her mind had been overwritten so many times that now, it was collapsing under the weight of what it held. Look at me, John said. You're here. You're real. You remember me because we're not just test subjects. We're more. They said love was dangerous, she whispered. They were right. But I would rather die remembering you than live as a blank face in the crowd. Then her body went still. John caught her as she slumped. Her eyes fluttered, but she was still breathing. Stay with me, he said. Don't. You disappear. The steel door opened on its own. A voice echoed out. Metallic, hollow, but deep with memory. Come in, John Keller. He looked up. It knew his name. Inside, the room pulsed with red light. Screens lined the walls, each one showing different moments from John's past. Him waking up. Him meeting Sierra. The temple. The blood map. The machine had seen everything. At the center of the room was the Watcher. It wasn't a man or a robot. It was both, and neither. A towering shape of metal bones and wires wrapped in gray flesh. Its face was a shattered mirror of hundreds of human eyes, blinking, watching, remembering. John stepped inside, holding Sierra gently in his arms. The door closed behind him. Who are you? John asked. I am what remains when memory is made into a weapon, the Watcher said. I was once like you, a man, curious, willing to remember. They fed me memories until I cracked, and became this. You control the resets. I am the reset, it said. I am the punishment for those who refuse to forget. John laid Sierra gently on the floor and stood. Then punish me. The Watcher tilted its head. Why fight to remember pain? Why cling to a girl whose mind is already failing? John looked down at Sierra, her face pale, her breathing shallow. Because love makes the memory worth it. The Watcher lunged. John drew the blade Sierra had given him, the strange alien weapon that pulsed with his heartbeat. He swung once, missed. The Watcher's tendrils lashed out, tearing through metal and stone. John rolled, ducked, stabbed into one of the legs. Sparks flew. The creature screamed. Screens shattered. The room shook. But the Watcher was fast. Too fast. It slammed John against the wall. The blade fell from his hand. The Watcher stood over him. You will forget her now. Then, something moved. Sierra. She was on her knees, eyes open, but different. Her eyes glowed bright silver, brighter than before. Her voice was calm, cold, certain. No, he won't. She raised her hand, and the blade flew into it like it was part of her. She stood slowly. The Watcher turned. You are breaking, it said. No, Sierra said. I am remembering. She rushed forward and drove the blade deep into the core of the Watcher's chest. A howl filled the chamber, not from pain, but from every voice it had ever stolen. Thousands of screams echoed in the room. And the Watcher felt its body cracked, melted, faded. The lights dimmed. The screens went black. Then, silence. John stood, barely able to breathe. Sierra, she turned to him slowly, her nose bleeding, her hands shaking. I can't hold on much longer, she whispered. But I remember you. You saved me, and you gave me a reason to fight. Then she smiled, soft, sad. Now you have, to finish it. John stepped forward and caught her as she collapsed again. Her pulse was weak, but it was still there. In the wall behind them, a hidden panel opened, a final control switch. Red, glowing. One last choice. Reset the world forever, or set it free. John held her close. He knew what he had to do. The planet tried to erase him, but love made them both remember. The room was still. Broken wires sparked softly in the corners. Dust floated through the air, lit by the dim red light from the final control switch. John stood frozen, holding Sierra. In his arms, she was still breathing, but faintly. Her eyes flickered. She was between memory and nothingness, and he was standing before the core of it all. A single panel blinked, waiting for his decision. Terminate the reset? Yes or no? His finger hovered over the switch. What would happen if he pressed it? Would the reset stop? Would people wake up screaming, flooded with years they never knew they had? Or would their minds break completely? He looked down at Sierra's pale face. She had fought through 1,000 resets just to remember him. She had shattered the Watcher. She had chosen pain over peace. Because love, real love, was stronger than forgetfulness, and now it was his turn. You don't get to erase us, he whispered to the machine. Not anymore. He pressed yes. The room went dark. For a second there was nothing. Then, the world shook. Deep, violent rumbling. Lights exploded. Alarms screamed. Data shot across the screens as the core unraveled. Outside, the sky changed. The red haze cracked open into streaks of gold and blue. Energy rippled through the clouds, tearing through the layers of lies. Villages lit up. People collapsed, clutching their heads, not in pain, but in sudden, overwhelming realization. The memories came back. All of them. Days, years, faces, pain, love, fear, loss, everything. A woman who had forgotten her son screamed his name and hugged him with shaking arms. An old man whispered the name of a wife he thought had never existed. And Sierra, her eyes opened wide. silver and glowing. "John," she whispered. "I'm here," he said, falling to his knees beside her. "You stopped it?" He nodded, tears in his eyes. "I remember," she said. "I remember everything." Outside, the Watchers, what remained of them, stumbled and died. Their systems collapsed as their reason for existing vanished. In the sky, the clouds broke fully, revealing something behind them. Ships. Giant human ships, long abandoned, orbiting silently. Voice echoed from the walls around John and Syra. Core override accepted. Project Rebirth terminated. Stand by for full system purge. The room around them began to crumble. John lifted Syra. "We have to go." They ran, limping, bleeding, up the old stairwell, through the shaking tunnels. Panels burst. Fires sparked. Machines wailed. They reached the surface just as the lab exploded behind them in a pulse of white light. The ground shook, throwing them forward, but they were alive. The crater glowed behind them like the end of a war, and in the sky, something else changed. A soft hum filled the air. One of the ships, silent for decades, came alive. A ramp lowered slowly from its belly. John turned to Syra. "Do you trust me?" She nodded without hesitation. They stepped aboard the ship. Inside, everything powered on. Lights, doors, screens. A console blinked. "Welcome back, Commander John Keller." John froze. Syra touched his shoulder. "You were more than a subject." I think I was meant to finish something." Together they sat in the cockpit. Screens showed the planet below. Alive, awake, remembering. For the first time in forever. No more resets. No more lost faces. No more stolen names. Syra leaned her head on John's shoulder. "Do you think they'll forgive us?" He looked out at the stars. "Maybe not today, but someday." The ship rose slowly, lifting them above the trees, above the sky, above the place that had tried to erase everything they were. And in the silence of space, they remembered.